I hated starting conversations with people that I didn't know because the first thing they want to know is, what do you do? And, I hate that in society, we kind of like dwindled people down to what they do, because who I am has very little to do with what I do.
Welcome to Sports Mom Rapport, where we support and connect with moms of athletes while sharing helpful advice along the way. This is Tara.
And I'm Destiny. Thank you for joining us as we highlight you incredible moms.
Today we'll be chatting with Tierra Haynes, a sports mom of 3 boys. We'll hear about her family and how she created Mommy on the Move.
I'm really fascinated to hear about how she juggles running a successful business while raising 3 very active boys. Tierra has an engaging personality and a huge following on social media.
Yes, I see she has close to 100,000 followers on Instagram. She definitely puts out a lot of content. It'll be fun to hear how Tierra created this brand for herself by connecting with other moms through her own podcast and blog.
Tierra has even written a book.
So cool. As a fellow author myself, I can't wait to hear about how her idea for the book came about and the vision she has for writing some more.
Let's get started. Welcome, Tierra Haynes.
Hi, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you, and we can't wait to hear all you have to share about being a sports mom and how that relates in your life. So a fun fact, your husband and 3 sons, first names all start with a D. So we've got DeAndre, Dre Jr., Devin, and Dallas.
I am the oddball in every way. I'm the only girl. I'm the only T. I'm just over here on an island by myself. All D's sounded really cute, like in theory, but when you're trying to like yell at somebody, it's a really bad idea because I'm saying all the wrong names to every kid the whole time. They're like, I'm not Devin. I'm like, you know who I'm talking about.
I have the same thing. I have all A's. I get it.
Ditto. I have 2 L's.
Look at that.
Aren't we cool?
You got to be fair with everyone, right?
Keep it consistent.
So tell us about your family and what you all enjoy doing together.
Obviously, we're a huge sports family. Our boys are 15, 9, and 8 right now, which is a lot of fun. We're kind of in that in between. We're out of the baby phase. Devin and Dallas are 16 months apart, and it really just felt like I had twins. So that was a tough time, man, like getting to basketball games. Obviously my husband coaches, and then our oldest son plays basketball. And so even when the little boys were really little, our oldest son played football and basketball. And so like carting them to practices and all that kind of stuff, it was a lot. And I look back like, how are you even here? How did you survive that? We definitely love attending professional sports events. We currently live in Milwaukee, so we were privileged enough to move here the same year they won the national NBA championship. So we were here to witness Game 6 live and in person in Pfizer Forum, which was super, super cool and a great way to get welcomed into the city. We love sporting events. We actually just decided to try and get tickets to Monster Jam. Actually, tonight, we're going to see a really, really good friend of mine. Her son is playing the genie in Aladdin in the Disney Broadway play. So we're going to see the play tonight as a family as well. So we do a lot of things. We like to go out to eat. We love concerts. We like to have a good time. We like to have a lot of fun. We watch a lot of sports. We attend a lot of sports games. We like to play games. The boys are big video gamers. Dre and I are not. We don't know anything about video games. We just are the money behind it.
That's definitely a world Tara and I don't know anything about.
Totally.
So you mentioned your boys have dabbled in a lot of athletic activities and different sports. What are their athletic goals at this point? I know they're still young, but do they have any big ambitions?
Little Dre I can't even believe we have a freshman in high school. So he's definitely at the point where he's taking basketball much more serious. He stopped playing football a few years ago to solely focus on basketball. We are in the process of recovery. So over the last 2 years, in 2021, he broke his left tibia. And then earlier this year in February, he broke his right tibia, which is very odd and weird and random. He has recovered phenomenally. I mean, it was such a good sport. That actually, since all of us have sports in common, I'm sure a lot of us have experienced injuries through our kids. And I was a sports junkie as well. I played softball, I ran track, I was a cheerleader, I bowled, which is kind of random, but I actually got a partial scholarship to college to bowl. So that's the one sport I can beat all of my boys in is bowling. So they hate to go bowling with me. They're like, Mom, you're too good. We don't want to play anymore. So I got to take that because I'm terrible at basketball. I'm really awful. I had not experienced any injuries. You know, my husband played basketball in college, did a bunch of different sports as well. He never had any injuries. So for our first experience to be through our son was really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my husband coaches, and he had just taken the job at Marquette. So he was in Milwaukee already. The boys and I were still in Maryland, finishing out the school year. And my oldest son was finishing out his basketball season. He was playing AAU. So we weren't even at home. We were away at a tournament in Delaware. We weren't even in Maryland. Broke his tibia, had to get taken to the emergency room. Then we had to go to a different hospital because they had a better children's surgeon at this other hospital. My husband hopped on a flight at midnight to fly to us in Delaware and meet us there so he could be there for the surgery. So just the life of like sports in general. There are a lot of times where I'm the only parent present when we're at sporting events. And so it was just a really scary situation. That was his first injury. 6 weeks, he couldn't even get up. He couldn't go to the bathroom. He literally couldn't do anything for himself. We could kind of see him slip into a little bit of a depression because it was the first time. He loves to play basketball and he absolutely could not do that. It was really, really tough for him. And it was tough to watch. It was hard for me. I'm juggling like an injury with 2 other kids. And I'll never forget my youngest kind of had a moment one day because I was asking them for so much help. Because again, it's just me and the boys at the house. And he goes, Mom, everything is about Dre right now. You don't even ask me if I want to help. You just send me to do stuff all the time. Of course, I cried because like, what? Who wants to hear that from their kid? I had to put myself in his shoes. For me, I'm like, we all got to rally around Dre. So we're all going to do whatever we need to do. And he's like, okay, but that's cool. But what about me? So we had a really good, open and honest conversation. Interesting how it impacts everybody in the family and not just the kid who's injured. So being able to have that conversation. But I was glad that as a family, we've created that dynamic that our kids feel comfortable enough to have those types of conversations with us. Anyway, I don't even remember what the question was. I'm so sorry.
It definitely sounds like you are having a real mom moment. We've all been there. You're paying attention to the one and the other ones need attention and you're doing the best you can. That's all we can do. So that's great that you had that communication with each other. And like, when it's your turn and you need me more, I'm going to be there for you.
Exactly. And that was exactly the conversation we ended up having. I was like, imagine if you were hurt, you would want us to all be there and support you. So when he broke it again, I freaked out because I was just thinking about how much selfishly, honestly, how much more work it was for me for him having a broken leg. He's 15 now. He can fix his own food and do all these things. And he handled the second injury so much better because I think mentally he just knew what to expect. But I said all of that to say we're now handling the impact of that as he transitions into playing freshman year. And you can just kind of see him carrying the weight on his shoulders of like, because his dad coaches D1 basketball and he's only recruited at D1 schools. So that's in my son's mind, that's the standard, right? And so it's like, if I can't get a scholarship at this level school, then I failed. We're trying so hard to talk him out of that. Do you, but just make sure you're having fun. But it's definitely a burden that he's carrying on his shoulders for sure. And we can see that. And so the 9-year-old is also an excellent basketball player. He played flag football for a little bit when we were in Michigan. He hasn't played since then, but he really enjoyed that. He's actually a phenomenal soccer player. I'm trying to spread the sports out. I need somebody to pick up a baseball bat too, because I saw Aaron Judge's contract the other day. So I'm trying to see if it's too late to get anybody to pick up a baseball bat.
That's when you want to rewind the ticker on your DVR and you're like, wait, hold on. Did that actually say that big of a contract for baseball? It's impressive.
It's totally impressive.
Our middle son, Devin, is a really good soccer player, but he was on a team with a really, really good friend. And then once we moved, he decided he didn't want to play anymore and kind of lost the drive for it. So I'm hoping I can get him back into it in the spring. But for now, he's playing on a basketball team. Our youngest, he played basketball a little bit, not on an elite level or anything. He's our artist. So he likes to paint and he wants to join karate class right now. He's definitely not our athlete, but he could be. I mean, but he doesn't show a whole lot of interest in sports, which I actually think is fun. And I love helping him explore other things that are different and just from a different part of the brain and seeing how that kind of works out and plays out for him. So that's been fun too, to see him not do sports and, see what other interests come from that.
It's interesting because I heard in all of that how, one, an injury can impact the entire family.
Absolutely.
How the support of your team and how the support of you as his mom and being there for him in a different role, just how important all of that is. And then I love how you shared managing that role that you have and then also the role that your husband plays. And like you said, the youngest, he may tap into something completely different. And that's the beauty of it.
Find something, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'll be there with your face cut out and a cowbell or, whatever.
Tierra, that's great how you're just supporting your kids and whatever they do. And they're definitely going to feel that, and it will take the pressure off of them to feel like they have to be a D1 athlete as their father was, as what he's coaching. It's terrific that you are supporting them in all their different interests. They're going to feel that, and that's going to trickle down for sure.
I hope so. We'll find out when they talk to their therapist about me in 15 years. We'll see.
I love hearing about your family. It sounds like you're all really close and have so much fun together. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you. I would like you to share with us about Mommy on the Move.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your professional background and what gave you this idea to start this new adventure.
Yeah, I actually started Mommy on the Move, was really just an Instagram name that I introduced about 2016. This was after so let me be clear. After we graduated, Dre played basketball overseas for 6 years, where our oldest son and I moved with him, and every year was a different city. Most years it was a different country as well. So we moved all of those years. Then really it started with, because we were living overseas and everything, I used to share a lot of what we were doing on social media so that our family could stay up to date. Really, everybody just wanted to know what little Dre was doing. Nobody cared about me. Nobody cared about Dre. What's the kid doing? Is he talking? Is he walking? Is he, how does he look?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Because we would be gone for 10 months out of the year. So it really all started as a way to keep our family involved in what we were doing and our life overseas and what that looked like. And so when I changed it to Mommy on the Move, then I kind of had an idea, start to create a platform that really focused on motherhood from the perspective of not parenting, but taking care of the mother, because I felt like I didn't ever see anything that approached it from that way. I was seeing a lot of curated content around motherhood, and it really bothered me because on the days where I was having a really tough day, I didn't see anything that supported those tough days. I only saw things that felt like toxic positivity on the days where I was really in the thick of it, toughing it out. And I really wanted a space to be able to say, I'm really annoyed today. This is not what I signed up for. And it feels actually like 1 out of 10 stars today. Do not recommend. I wanted to create a safe space that didn't feel judgy or competitive or any of those things, which is what I felt when I looked out into the social media world, into, websites or books or whatever. And then especially as a mom of color, there was another level there for me that I just didn't feel like I saw represented. And so I created it, and it has grown tremendously. It looks large, but honestly, it feels so close-knit because we talk really closely. We talk about a lot of things, and it started as just Instagram, and it grew into a bunch of other things, which is now a podcast, a blog, a children's book that will eventually be a series, speaking events. It's mom coaching. It's now evolved into all of these other places and spaces that my goal is to support and empower busy moms to just think about themselves and think about themselves as more than just a mom.
That's terrific. I love how it evolved. And I get the grandparents want to see their babies growing up, all their grandbabies, and how it started, but how you saw that, look, the mom is not being taken care of here and we need to focus on this. What a fun idea. On your website, I noticed that you mentioned that you did feel some resentment watching your husband live out his passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that you've had so much success, how have things changed for you, and how do you feel about that? Do you feel fulfilled?
I do in a way that honestly, it never could have come from Dre. It had to come from me just taking that time and walking this journey out and just finding myself. I love the way that it evolved because it all happened so naturally and nothing was ever forced. And there was so many years where I felt lost in motherhood because I felt like, again, the world tells you as a mom, your kids should be enough. That's all you should need. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. I mean, the first couple of years that we got back home from overseas, Dre and I actually worked at the same university. So he was coaching and I was working as an event planner for the College of Nursing at Kent State University. So for 3 years, I worked. We had 2 more babies and I was still working and being a coach's wife and doing all of the things, right? And I really was just on this hamster wheel of like, okay, we just add another thing. Okay, just let me catch that too. All right, no problem. But I also had the support of my parents who lived 45 minutes away. Dre's family lived 2.5 hours away. So I felt very covered in my village at that time. So it didn't feel so overwhelming, which a lot of times I have to look back and give myself grace because there are days now where I'm like, the kids are older. Why do I still feel like I'm drowning? And, like it should be easier. But I also have to give myself grace in the fact that I really had a lot of help at that time. Even though I was working, I still, my parents would come. And so I didn't feel that pressure all the time to do all of the things and feel like I needed octopus arms all the times because they were my other arms, where now it's just these 2. That's it. The way that it naturally evolved and came to life has really been the best part about the journey because I was resentful, but it was more like I was just longing to do something that I loved that I felt like made a difference. And I could so easily see the difference that Dre was making. It's very easy to stand behind him and say, look at him. He's doing all these great things. I'm just their mom. Like I'm just the kid's mom. And so I really settled into that place for a few years, for longer than I wish I would have, honestly, but it all came together for good. And so I can see the beauty in the journey, but I really struggled for a lot of that time. I hated starting conversations with people that I didn't know because the first thing they want to know is, what do you do? And, I hate that in society, we kind of like dwindled people down to what they do because who I am has very little to do with what I do. It was a lot of affirming myself in motherhood in those years where I didn't have anything else going on and just telling myself repeatedly, like, it may not be something that you do. Maybe it's the people that you raise and you're doing great work. And the reason that Dre can go and do all these great things is because you're at home and supporting him in this way. And so I felt like I needed to share that with other people because it really just blossomed and became this really beautiful community of women that all are really walking the same path, but just in different shoes. And it just, it looks different, but we're all doing the same kind of thing. And so it was really beautiful to see that resentment turn to just gratefulness, honestly, that I'm grateful for it all. I mean, I wouldn't change anything that we went through in any way that we went through it because it all led us as a family to this place and this space. And so even my kids now, they're a lot of what I do is on social media. So they see me making all these like goofy videos or like talking to myself on in my stories or whatever. And so even they now are like, my mom works on Instagram or she wrote a book because all of that led me to do the things that I've accomplished. And I don't take any of it for granted. So I'm really grateful.
I feel you so much there. I get that all the time. What do you do? And you feel like you've given up so much for your kids and for your family that you've lost your identity a bit. So I really like how you have turned all your discomfort into positive and helping others and really making your mark, feeling like you're making a difference. It's tough being a stay-at-home mom, but it's so rewarding though too.
Well,
for some of us.
It depends on the day. It depends. There were days where I would be like, this is the thank you I get. Seriously? There are a lot of days where it does feel thankless. Those days where you really just are in the thick of it. But of course, when you pull yourself back out of the day to day and you can kind of look at the big picture, it is the best job I will ever have. And we'll have it forever. You're never not a mom.
So let's talk about time. Do we ever have enough of it? I would love to hear about how you find time to balance all of your endeavors with your boys and their athletic activities and all of that stuff when it comes to travel and games and your career? And how do you balance it all and find the time?
Well, I think balance is a myth, at least in my opinion. I don't think it's like juggling, right? And so you just have to pick which balls you're going to pick up for that day and be okay with sitting some down. Priorities, you just have to reprioritize. You have to be willing to, give yourself grace. I can't get it all done any day of the week. Something's going to have to fall off the plate. The days that I'm killing it at work, the days that I'm killing it as a wife, dang, I should have read them that book, but I was just so tired and I should have cooked today, but we got to take out. It's just picking and choosing and trying to rotate so that one thing doesn't get left off the plate for too long. Something that I actively have to be intentional about working on is the first thing I always take off the plate is me. So when my hands get full, I'm immediately like, okay, mommy on the move can wait, or sleep can wait, or exercise can wait, or eating or drinking water can wait, because I have all of these other things that I need to take care of. And those are more important than the things that I'm going to take off the plate. One of the things that is not negotiable for me anymore is including therapy. I have to be able to give myself that space. I was dumping that all on my husband when he would come home from a long day at work. It's not fair to him and it's not fair to me, one, because he's not equipped to help me in any way. And I don't want him to coach me out of whatever I'm going through anyway. So it's really better for our relationship if I just take it to the professional and let them handle it. And they hold me accountable to make sure I stay on the table. It's important for me to have somebody whose sole focus is me. And so really that's one of the biggest things for me to hold myself accountable, is to make sure I keep that as a constant. And it's been a huge help to be able to, again, just have that accountability to make sure that I stay on the table, that I stay a part of the plate.
Your kids and family need happy Tierra, full Tierra, to be taking care of yourself so that you can help take care of them.
Absolutely. The other thing is asking for help. That is the number 2 thing that is the biggest struggle for me and so just incorporating different things in our lives, like giving myself grace to order out or add cleaners, so that the whole house can just be clean all at once. I mean, obviously we still clean up in between, and trying to incorporate those habits and instill those habits in our kids so that they know how to clean up and take care of themselves. But being open and honest about the fact that, like, I still need a little bit more help. And that's okay. And that looks different for all of us. And we're in a season of life right now where that was one thing that I prioritized for myself and for my mental health, was adding a cleaning service. Because when I can look around and all of the floors have vacuum lines, like what? Peace. I'm at peace. I'm like cozy, like a
until an hour later when the kids get home from school and they walk all over it and you're like, that lasted very short time. But.
And every 2 weeks, I'm like, now if everybody could just move out, this would be awesome.
Keep it clean. You'll miss them when they're gone, though.
I know. My mother reiterates that to me very often. Trust me, I know, and I love that they're here. I just want them to be a little cleaner.
I get it. I totally get it. But that's nice that you recognize these necessities. Things that must be in place and what you need as a person to keep everything running smoothly.
And honestly, our lives are so unpredictable. Schedules change, practice changes. All of these things are happening all at once. It really helps my mental to know that there's one constant. And without fail, every 2 weeks on Friday, the whole entire house will be clean. It's just the piece of having one thing that I know is going to remain the same. Everything else is just so unpredictable and crazy. And I'm like, it's okay, because the cleaners will be here Friday. So don't worry about it. Like, it just gives me a different level of peace. And I don't ever want to go back.
No, it sounds like you figured out which ball to put down.
Yeah. Ball. Quick, throw that one. You can pop that ball.
All the balls, and I'm done with the cleaning ball.
Yes.
Done.
Let's hand that off to somebody else.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I totally get how you need organization in order to be able to function. I can't see clutter around and be able to think clearly. Totally understandable.
Absolutely.
So Tierra, you have such a big social media presence and following, I notice, which I'm sure that you have gained over the years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I noticed you're just so open in being yourself, which it makes you so relatable. Have you always been that way, or has it been a process?
It was a process. It was a real process. So that turn happened within the last 2 years. I kid you not. I have been doing the podcast and blogging, and a friend of mine, she came to visit us. So we were talking about the business and, how things were going. And she was like, I love what you're doing, but you're not saying anything. And I said, what? What are you talking about? It's been years. Like, I got 37 podcast episodes and all these blogs. And she was like, Tierra, I know you. You are not being yourself. You are afraid of church people thinking you're not churchy enough. You're afraid of the schools that Dre works at, thinking that your personality is too much. You're afraid of falling out of line with what people think you should be. She was like, if that's how you're going to show up in that space, then that's fine. That's cute. She literally said those words to me. That's cute. It was not a compliment. She was like, but I think you have more in you. And I really had to do some deep self-reflection when she said that, because once Dre got to a certain level in his coaching career, it was really difficult for me to fully be present and be myself and be authentic and share struggles and all of the things that I wanted to get out of a social media experience. I wasn't really providing to people out of the fears of, what if somebody thinks what if I curse too much, or they're going to think I drink too much wine. Somebody going to call me alcoholic. Or what if I say something and it ends up on ESPN News tomorrow and everybody's like looking at Dre like, your wife is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I really I had a real conversation with Dre, and I was like, look, I'm about to do some stuff. I need to know that you're going to support me showing up, because I haven't been really being myself, and I want to try this out, and I really want to give this a shot and fully be myself. And he was like, do what you got to do. There's certain lines I'm never going to cross, but there's also like things that I'm very passionate about that before I was afraid to talk about publicly. Or I'm so grateful, one, for friends that call you out when you're not really doing the thing, right? Because I had so many yes men like, you're doing great. This is fabulous. This is, this is wonderful. And she was like, nope, try again.
She's telling you like it is. She's challenging you to be better, to really look inside. Yeah. That's a great friend.
She's a great friend, and she's still a great friend, and she still calls me out. She told me the other day, you're doing it again. I stop it.
I love it. Keeping you humble, keeping you on the ball there.
Keeping me honest. I'm not going to be for everybody, but I wasn't attracting my people because I wasn't being me. Even the way that I would dress for games. I mean, I love fashion. I love colors. I'm loud. My clothes are loud. I love all this stuff. I love sneakers, and I would show up in like flats, like, girl, you don't dress like that. What are you doing? And so it's completely shown up in every aspect of how I show up to games, how I show up online, how I show up in rooms with donors at donor events, just no longer willing to compromise who I am to my core for the audience that I'm going to be in front of. And it really has connected with so many women, specifically in coaching, that are like, thank you for showing me something different, because we didn't have that representation of wives just being able to be fun.
I like that you're true to yourself and that you've paved this way for other people to not be afraid to have to try to fit exactly how everybody think you should be. And the fact that your husband is supportive.
It's so beautiful.
Is there anything he said, this is off limits?
I think we have a mutual understanding of what's off limits. I would never say specifically like, I'm angry at him for this, right? Like I would never, there's an unspoken level of things that are not okay for the internet. And we just kind of have an understanding of what's off limits. But it was a transition for him, because my husband is much more reserved. He's very personable, but he's not I'm an oversharer. I'm like, he's now in a position where when he travels, we actually joke about this. We call him Mommy on the Move's husband.
See, that's what I love. And your sports kids are Mommy on the Move's kids.
Yes.
So you used to be the coach's wife, yes. And now he's the Mommy on the Move's.
He belongs to me now. So I kid you not, I have to tell you this story. He goes to some random gym. He says some girl goes, "Oh my God, aren't you Mommy on the Move's husband?" And he was like, yes, I am. Hilarious. So that was like the beginning of it. So now it's not even just wives. Now it's guys coming up to him and they're like, oh my God, my wife loves your wife. You know, like
You are making a name for yourself, girl. I love it.
it's amazing. It's funny, but it's also, I think, what fueled him to release it and let it go and let me do my own thing with it, because he's able to see the impact. Because on a more serious note, there are a lot of men that come up and they're like, man, my wife loves you. She speaks directly to her and she's encouraging her. And she was having a really tough time. She had just had kids and she's been at home. And that message your wife put up the other day really helped her through that. For him, again, not that the script flipped, but remember earlier I was saying how easy it was to see Dre's impact in coaching. And so it took those steps and like this amount of time for him to now see the impact of what I do and for that to kind of come full circle. And so that's been really great. But it definitely started with him being fully supportive right out the gate. But to enforce that and keep that going and for him to be completely bought in, it helps a lot for people to come up to him and say like, oh my God, I see what your wife is doing and I think it's amazing. That really leaves an impact on him too. So it's been amazing.
It makes him willing to stand in for those TikToks that you do.
It's really not a tough sell. I promise y'all. He is a willing participant in those shenanigans. Okay. I think he enjoys it because he can't really post that kind of stuff on his page. He just has a good time with like doing it on my page.
I get a kick out of it for sure.
He's having some fun.
He has a lot of fun over on Mommy on the Move. Okay.
I need to look those up. But you're definitely connecting with other moms and other people. And he sees that and he sees that impact you're making.
Yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me about the book that you wrote?
Yeah, so the series will be The Adventures of Us. The first book highlights it's called Getting to Know Guyon Bluford. Every book will be The Adventures of Us, Getting to Know. The series will highlight lesser known African Americans in history and just a little bit of backstory. The kids this was 5 years ago at this point. I'm driving the minivan, which we called the Swagger Wagon. It was not a minivan, okay? I was way too young and too cool to drive a minivan. So it was the Swagger Wagon. But it had a DVD player in it. I'm driving them around all day. You know, at the time, Devin and Dallas are probably like 2 and 3. And so they're with me full time. They're not school age yet. And they would watch Mr. Peabody and Sherman on repeat. I've never even seen the movie because the movie is back here. I'm driving, so I can't even see the movie, but I can hear it. So in the movie, if you've never seen it, they travel back in time and they meet all of these historical figures. They meet Michelangelo, Mona Lisa. One day it just dawns on me, they never meet anybody Black. This is also simultaneously, my oldest son he's in 3rd grade. And we're kind of having those conversations now where he's old enough to like recognize the makeup of his class. Black History Month rolls around. So what's the conversation? Like, are they talking about Black History Month? What's happening? And he was like, yeah, but it's really uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, why? What do you mean? He goes, because every time they talk about slavery or something about Black people, everybody looks at me. Okay. Yeah, I could imagine that would be really uncomfortable for you. So how does that make you feel? You know, so we're having those conversations. And then we're also having conversations about who are you learning about? What are you guys talking about? Well, Martin Luther King, slavery, and Rosa Parks. That's pretty much wrap it up in the bow. Done. We did Black History Month. If I want my kids to know about people that look like them, I'm going to have to introduce them. So that kind of sparks that interest. And so we start talking about different things at home and different people at home and introducing those conversations at home. Then I go, well, if my kids don't know, maybe there's some other kids that don't know. So I have a really good friend of mine who is an editor. She had already written a children's book. I am not a writer. I have no desire to be an author. So I call her and I say, Lacey, I have this idea for a book. Could you write it? She says no. A little more backstory. Lacey is white. Her husband is Black. They have biracial children. So I go, you should write this book. She goes, no, Tierra, it's a great idea, but it's yours. And you can absolutely write that. I'm like, I'm not a writer. I just want somebody to do this. I want it to be represented on a bookshelf somewhere. No, she won't do it. I'm like, I will pay you. Can I just pay you to write it? She goes, I will not take your money for this because you can do this. And I'm like, girl, I don't have time for this, but I just want somebody to do it. She refuses. So I'm waiting to see, because somebody else is going to write this book. It's not that genius. You know, anybody could write this book. I'm waiting years and years and years. And finally, in quarantine, my husband goes, so we're not doing anything else. Are you going to go ahead and write this book yet? And I was like, all right, I guess so. And so I did, with the help of my amazing editor, with the support again of my amazing husband. I decided to take on the journey of creating a series that is dedicated to learning history of lesser known African Americans. And we found an incredible illustrator. She did a fantastic job. And we were able to, in the middle of a pandemic, pull together a project that I never in a million years thought that I would ever be a part of. My favorite part is that it highlights our boys. Our kids are the main characters of the book, and they'll be the constant in every book. But it's kind of like a Mr. Peabody and Sherman meets the Magic School Bus meets, what's the show where it was, Are You a Bill? What's the name of that show?
Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock. That's what I was trying to think of. Yes. Schoolhouse Rock is a cross between all of those. In my opinion, visually, that was the idea that I had in my head. But I really wanted it to be fun. You know, I have boys, they don't always love to, my middle son loves to read, but the other two, not so much. It can be a challenge to get them to read. So I wanted it to be educational, but so fun that you didn't know that you were learning. And I didn't want it to be boring and just reading a bunch of facts. I wanted it to be visually exciting and, you know, just like those shows that I referenced, fun and colorful and all of those things. And so this project was born, and I am really excited to say I'm almost done with the second book in the series. I won't say who it is yet, but the boys wanted it to be a woman. So they didn't choose the person, but they wanted the next book to be a woman, which I love to tell people because I just feel really proud of that as a woman raising three men, that they were interested, like, Mom, then I think the next one should be about a woman. And I don't think they even comprehended what that meant to me and what that looked like. But I'm really, really proud that we're raising young men that want to hear stories about women too. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited that it includes affirmations for Black boys specifically. It was really important to me to have specific representation in this way because there just isn't enough of that. I had the pleasure and the honor to do virtual book readings after the book was done with different classrooms. It's the age group for the book is K-5. And when I tell you, honestly, that was the best part of this whole process. And they asked the best questions. My favorite feedback was for little boys to look and say, he looks just like me, or he looks like my cousin, or he looks like my brother. That was really exciting to me because I feel like the opportunity to see someone that looks just like you as an astronaut, we don't have that. We have workers in our family. My parents and Dre's parents are hard workers. Dre's a basketball coach. We don't have anybody that was an astronaut in our family where they can look to them and be like, hey, I should do that. That must be a really cool job. What does that look like? A lot of my passion comes from raising three boys that are surrounded by athletics, raising three Black boys around basketball. The expectation is that they would be an athlete. And I wanted them to know in their gut that they don't have to be that they can be something else. They can be whatever else they want to be, and to follow other passions and interests as they come along, because we've been there. Black people have been in all of those spaces, and we've done amazing and incredible things in all of those spaces too. And so it doesn't just have to be with a jersey. As you can tell, something that I'm really passionate about.
That's beautiful. That's truly beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that you took the initiative with your book. That's another good friend that you have there telling you, no, you do it. You want to do it. You do it yourself. You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah.
We need people like that in our lives. Congratulations. If you want something done and something out there, you just got to go out there and do it.
Absolutely.
And make sure it gets out there. And that's just another way that you are making your mark and showing all these kids that they can be anything they set their minds to.
In an odd turn, I ended up being representation because I'm a Black author, to say, hey, we met an author today when they were in school. And so that's really amazing. And I will say my favorite part is hearing my kids call me an author. I think that's the best part of it all, honestly.
I love that. And I can relate in the way that during the pandemic last year, I decided to write a children's book myself.
Wow.
And I'm not considering myself an author, but I guess I do now. And
if you
I'm
did
really
it, then
proud
you
of it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I taught myself how to do digital art. I didn't want to have to pay so much money for that. And I had my daughter tell me, Mom, I believe in you. You can do that. You can do it yourself.
That's beautiful.
It's really nice to be able to call yourself an author, right?
It is. It is. It's really cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so powerful. Just to hear that journey and knowing that you filled the void in an area that you felt would be impactful for your boys, and not just your boys, but children around the world. Just so powerful. And to you too, Tara.
Yeah.
You wrote a children's book as well. And just knowing that it can uplift these kids that are going through so much these days and pressures and just, it's beautiful. I love you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm a little exhausted hearing about all these beautiful, amazing things you guys are doing. Tierra, tell us how you unwind. How do you re-energize? How do you unwind? I know that you mentioned therapy that's been very helpful for you to just continue to put your self-care as a priority. You know, sports moms, we run ourselves crazy for our kiddos. And like you said, sometimes it's easy for us to just say, oh, this needs to be tackled, or we're running on the treadmill and we forget about ourselves.
It's so easy to forget about ourselves. If anybody is listening to this and you follow me on Instagram, you will fall out if I say anything other than this first. I love wine.
I knew it. I knew it. I was like, she's going to say it. Her glass of wine.
If I say anything else, people are going to be like, shut it off. Turn it off. She's a liar. I love a good glass of wine. I'm a red girl through and through. Give me a dry red, a Pinot Noir. Baby, it's a wrap. All is good. My kids know it. My husband knows it. Everybody knows it. So I love a good glass of wine. I love 90s hip hop and R&B. That is my go-to playlist. That is my vibe, 100%. I'm not a big bubble bath girl, but I do love candles. I love a good massage. Like, massages have become a regular part of my self-care. I'm trying to get better at taking myself on dates alone. I have not been alone since 2002 when I met Haynes. It's been a transition now that the kids are a little bit older and my son is old enough to be the babysitter. I can kind of do my own thing. So, I mean, the only thing I used to do by myself was like go to the grocery store. Now I'm just like, I want to go eat alone and like take myself to the movies and create experiences for myself that I really enjoy. And really to kind of release some of that pressure off of my poor husband. You know, I love flowers sometimes. So, you know, let me go get myself some flowers, perk up the kitchen, or I love to get dressed. It is my passion right now. And I am yelling and screaming from the rooftops to every mom, get dressed. It lifts me up. It lifts my spirits up. I am currently at the highest weight I've ever been in my life. I don't care. I still love my body, but it's a little rounder than it used to be. But I love a good fit. You can't tell me nothing. Okay. So those are just, you know, like little things. But honestly, the biggest thing that keeps me sane also outside of therapy is my Nation of Coaches Wives Bible study. They are my tribe through and through. It keeps me accountable. We do a daily devotion. I'm really grateful for that. They are truly my lifeline.
You have shared so much with us and just been an open book. I say that again and again. I know that it took time for you to get comfortable.
Yeah.
To be able to share the way that you do. We appreciate it. Do you have any particular advice that you would have for other moms of aspiring athletes? Obviously, you've shared advice just by being you and being an example, but any particular tidbits that you'd like to share?
I do. When we were at Michigan, we had the privilege of coaching Jordan Poole, who is now on the Warriors team, the Golden State Warriors. And so I actually have a podcast episode that I interviewed him and just talking about his relationship with his mom as an athlete. And something he shared with me, which is so funny because we always think we're constantly pouring into the kids, but he shared something with me that I will never forget. And I want to share this with you ladies now. He felt like the most impactful time with his mom was the rides in the car to and from practice, to games. That time in the car, he felt like was the most memorable. I felt like I kind of got that, but for him, for that to be his memory and something that stuck with him and impacted him, completely changed my perspective on being intentional when I'm in the car with my boys and I'm driving them to and from practice. And so sometimes that's just something fun, like we're just listening to music and we're dancing, you know, at a time now where they instantly want to hop on their phones. And so it's hard to get that time with them, letting it naturally happen. I don't force it. If he's in a mood where he doesn't want to talk, I respect that. And that's okay. Be intentional and capitalize on the time that you get those car rides. Cherish your car rides, moms.
That is great advice. I love that he appreciated it so much. I mean, I've always I treasure those times of driving my kids back and forth and value that time, and I still do. So the fact that it was really special to the kid.
Yeah. When I find myself in that place, I can hear his voice in the back of my head telling me to just enjoy it and cherish it. It's a great perspective shift.
That makes me think too about how different our kids are.
Mm-hmm.
And that time when you are in the car and you don't really have to look at each other. Some of our kids that are more reserved and maybe less
Mm-hmm.
likely to share, they can be more comfortable in the car or even
Absolutely.
on a walk where you're walking or you're just next to one another. It's a safe time to chat and to just say, but if you make yourself available for them, knowing that one day they're going to be driving themselves, those are the moments that they'll remember and appreciate.
But I love what you said too, of giving them the space. I don't force, trying not to take phone calls while we're in the car. So that way, when he feels like, oh my God, a lot of conversations, especially with teenagers, and you guys know this, it's so random. It's like, oh my God, Ma, let me tell you about this. And I'll be like, what? Tell me. But you just got to be ready to catch it, because if you don't have an open space, then he does tend to close off and be like, well, you were busy or you were doing something else. And he wants my full undivided attention. I'm like, I cannot look at a TikTok right now. I'm trying to drive you and get you safely to where you got to go.
You're making yourself available.
Yes, absolutely.
We actually have a 2-minute rule. When you get in the car, let's give each other our first 2 minutes. Because the kids do. They get in the car, practice was meh or great or not. They want to check in with their friends. So we say 2-minute rule. Truth be told, it should be about 10 minutes, but 10 instead of 2.
But 2 sometimes probably leads into 10.
Well, thank you so much. So excited that you have joined us today. How can our listeners keep in touch with you, follow you, support you in all of your endeavors?
The website is mommyonthemove.info, MOMMY onthemove.info. And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Mommy on the Move. Podcast under the same name, Mommy on the Move. And the book is available on Amazon.
It's been amazing listening to your stories. We wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was an honor. I appreciate it.
We're so glad you've joined us today. Thank you for listening. Upcoming episodes and show info can all be found at sportsmomreport.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. We'd love to hear from you, so please reach out to us with any comments, or if you or someone you know would like to share their story and connect with us.